Oi mates, this weekend I did a couple super cool things. First I went to a bar where they have Nintendo Switch setups everywhere, and I played one of the top players in all of the state in Smash Ultimate. And the other thing I did was playing 2021's Game of the Year, Hades. Now, I played this briefly in the past, but I didn't really get to spend as much time with it as I would have liked, so I figured it was time to hop back in and see what all the kerfuffle was about. So, why don't you guys follow me and we'll get into the video. Come on. I don't know why I did that. Obviously my recording setup is here, so I don't know. That was just weird and awkward for everybody involved. Also, that song you just heard plays in the intro, and after a few sessions playing this game, you'll be humming it non-stop just throughout your normal day. It's just a part of who you are now. So we all know I'm a huge fan of action RPGs, which is why I decided to do this video on Hades. Actually, Hades is a roguelike game and not an action RPG at all. Actually, Hades is technically a roguelite game, so not really a roguelike game. Hey, Terrence, Logan, you guys shut the fuck up. You're just coming off as annoying right now. So Hades is just like any other roguelike game. You start off being thrown straight into Tartarus with little info. Look, it's pretty empty and not much dialogue, and we're obviously not expecting much in terms of sound design or artwork either. Actually, scratch that. The artwork's pretty good, and the destructible environments, it's a nice touch. But look, that's it anyways, because it's just a roguelike game. There's not gonna be much story or really anything else to offer. We managed to get a handle of the controls and onto our first room of enemies. The mechanics were fairly smooth, but I didn't even take a hit in the first room, so I'd say this game is quite underwhelming so far in terms of difficulty. Here we meet Athena and have our first glimpse of dialogue.
Hail, noble cousin. Now, let's get you from that miserable place. I'll see that all of us upon Olympus do our part, beginning here with me.
Okay. That dialogue was pretty decent. It was okay. I'm sure they just put their best foot forward. I'm not really expecting much more in this mindless masher of a game. We choose our first boon and we head into the next room.
Bars.
Room number 2 has a few more enemy types, and there's also some traps I noticed on the floor, but I still have not been touched, and I'm beginning to lose faith in finding any sort of challenge with the game so far. However, I do play tons of games, so it's not really a surprise that I'm kind of a legend with the game straight away. Anyways, we meet our second god, Artemis.
Great, it's you, Zagreus. Here, let me offer you some fine new boons as well as Lord Dionysus.
So apparently the dialogue and voice acting is where they must have spent the majority of the budget for this game, because it's actually very good. Choosing our next boon, we move on to room number 3, where we make extremely quick work of the enemies and are rewarded with some form of purple currency. This time, the game gives us a choice which door to choose, so we take the 50-50 and move on to room number 4. By this time, I'm pretty underwhelmed with the game so far, since the voice acting is pretty much carrying it at the moment, with the few dialogue options we've had and then Zagreus's few comments here and there, but we haven't taken one sliver of damage, so I'm beginning to lose a little hope. That is until we get on to the next room, where they begin to introduce armored enemies, where I may or may not have been hit a few times. But look, it's not even a big deal. We've got like 30 hit points. That's far more than I will need for the rest of the game. Okay, who fucking turned on the rock music? Huh? I didn't know there was gonna be rock and roll music. I didn't know that before starting the game. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's 2 HP? 2 HP? No. We've got this.
I've got this.
I didn't have it. Okay, so the game was a bit more difficult than I initially thought, but we just start back at the beginning and I have a bit more knowledge, so I get a bit further this next try. Apparently this game has a hub world where we're introduced to a lot of other gods, including our father Hades. Hey, he said the title of the game. And we also get to meet Achilles, Nyx, and the greatest, most best boy in all the land. That's right, our doggy, Cerberus. Walking around and introducing myself and talking to the other characters made me realize the voice acting is not only decent, it's superb. Zagreus, which is the character we control, even makes slick fourth wall breaking comments quite often throughout, even reacting to what the narrator says. The narrator often comments when we enter into a new location or we go up to a new object, which helps explain the functions and sort of acts like a tutorial without breaking the immersion. Look, to be totally honest, I didn't spend a lot of time here my first run through because I just wanted to get back and practicing my sword skills and just trying to beat this game. On the way back to Tartarus, we passed by Zagreus's room. There's a mirror there where we can upgrade skills from the keys and purple gems called Darkness that we found earlier. We'll get to this later. But further on, past our room, I can't tell you how excited I was. We can choose from 4 different weapons, and one of them was a bow. I don't like to brag a lot, but the bow is sort of my thing. Obviously, picking the bow, we head back into the fray. This run is going to be different. We get a boon from Zeus right from the beginning, fight our way through gaining valuables, more boons, and once again, to the dreaded rock and roll music, this time conquering Beavis and Butthead with ease. I told you this run would be different. After doing a bit of renovations and super important cleanup work, we make it to our first boss, and holy shit, this voice acting.
Well, this is awkward.
Halt, Zagreus. Not one step further.
Aside from being madly in love with Magara's voice, this fight got messy, but we were victorious. I told you this time was different. It wasn't much different though. My time, however, back at the hub world had changed a bit though. The character location slightly changed, the dialogues changed, and reflected my progress in the actual underworld, and slowly characters were being developed. This was the moment when I realized Hades has a bit more to offer than your typical roguelike games, and I was actually really excited to see the game and characters develop as we fought our way through the underworld. We met the house contractor, which allowed us to make upgrades to the house in the form of aesthetics or functional underworld upgrades to make our progress a bit easier, and also had our first conversation with Meg outside of battle. Knowing I could advance further with just a little bit more practice, I decided to head back into Tartarus for just one last run for the night. We proceeded to die at Meg and I went to bed. I'm no quitter though, so the very next morning, bright and early, I came back to Hades with a renewed sense of pride and decided to dive back in. This time would be different. Again, back with our trusty bow, we beat Meg's bitch ass without being hit even one time. Made it through Asphodel with surprisingly not much struggle. Few new enemies, continued to pick up boons from different gods, and finally arrived at boss number 2, the Lernaean Bone Hydra. Fortunately, due to our damage output, we were able to take down this boss, so we could finally move on to everyone's favorite place in their first playthrough, Elysium. Soldiering on, I finally came to a place that offered double boons, and who could say no to that oh so good double god power? And unfortunately, this is where we died. Or so you thought. Remember that mirror I mentioned earlier? Well, turns out before I jumped on that morning, resourceful Wada decided to invest in a little perk called Death's Defiance. This allows you to be revived to half health whenever you take a death. But Wada, why aren't you mentioning everything that's in the game so we know what to expect? There's just too much in this game. There's just so damn much. So with Death Defied, we were able to go on and beat the rest of the game. Nah, we made it one room further. Back to the hub world, more character dialogues, more mirror upgrades, some extra charms we gained from gifting nectar to certain characters. I told you, there's a lot in this game. Also, this next run, it's going to be different.
It's going to be different.
We beat Meg's bitch ass once again. Same thing with the Bone Hydra. Met boss number 3, which was Theseus and Artorias. One of them I hate. I'll let you be the judge. Either way, we beat them first try, and I was finally on my way to the Temple of the Styx, which was the final hurdle in my way. In the final area, we find our best boy guarding the exit to the underworld. So unfortunately, we have to fight to certain death. Kidding. We have to find this item called a satyr sack. It's in one of these 5 random rooms. After you find it, you can bring it back, give it to Cerberus, and he'll let you on by. It's just such a cute dog. So the time had finally come. Time for the final battle between us and our father, Hades. Hey, he said the time. No lie, this battle, my heart was racing fast. My hands were far too sweaty, but I managed to take his health down far enough to realize we had this in the bag. Dashing around frantically and having the intro theme playing in the background seemed like the perfect way for this game to be coming to the end. And as I trickled away, his final last bit of health.
Great. This. What? Get off me! I have something.
Okay. It's the fucking rock and roll music again, huh? This battle was so freaking intense, and as you can see, it went down to the wire, last hit. Now, I've played enough Dark Souls to know that fighting a boss and getting down to the few last hits is where you have to play the most patient and defensive. So rather than rush in, I decided to sit back and take my time. And in the end, it paid off. We did it. I finally conquered Hades. It was over. It took me 5 tries, but we did it. We beat the game. Now, I can fully understand why this game won Game of the Year in 2021. It was well worth it. I had a blast. Moving forward to see the credits of the game, we're treated to some beautiful scenery and super calming music. We continue walking forward into a beautiful garden where we meet up with our mother. Oh, okay. Happy ending then.
Oh, Zagreus. Farewell, my son. Won't you come back to me? When you are able, please, come back. I shall be waiting here. However long it takes.
However long it takes. Can't hold on.
Needless to say, the amount of confusion I felt in this moment was substantial. I thought I'd beaten this game and wanted to get an early start on making this YouTube video, but I quickly realized this was only just the beginning. Back at the hub world, the story had advanced another layer, and the character depth between Zagreus and the other gods, it had just advanced even further than what was already there before. Not only does this game require you to beat Hades 10 times to get the true ending, there are even more plot lines to uncover, more weapons to unlock and upgrade, complete new mirror skills that can be substituted in and out, and even a custom difficulty mode, which allows you to turn the game level up to 63. We completed it at 0. Just so damn much. Now, if you haven't played Hades, this might seem like a complete AAA title based on the video so far, but if you have played this game before, then you realize how many things I've actually skipped out on and how much content I haven't even gotten close to addressing yet. For instance, we didn't even talk about my favorite character and possibly my secret girlfriend, Adusa. I mean, I guess it's not a secret if you just tell all of YouTube, but We didn't even talk about how when you get to Cerberus, the devs put this really cool "you have defeated" or "you have vanquished" Cerberus message at the top of the screen. We didn't even talk about how each playthrough has multiple different routes and characters that can either help or hinder your progress throughout the run. We didn't even talk about how the gods are random and the amount of weapons to upgrade and unlock create hundreds of different builds per run that just make you sink hundreds of hours into this game. We didn't even talk about... You get the point. Hades does do one thing severely wrong though. Hades was produced by Supergiant, which is an indie company that just has a handful of staff and not massive budgets, meaning they literally make me so damn angry at all of the AAA titles and companies that release their games without actually putting the customer first. Hades absolutely nails the character dialogue and development far better than most story-heavy RPGs do. The soundtrack, which is superb and took an entire orchestra to create. What's that? It was all written by one legendary man named Darren Korb. Didn't he also voice multiple characters like Zagreus and Skelly? Okay. Look, I could go on and on about how damn good this game is, but I honestly don't feel like I would do it justice. I can't even come close to describing the feeling when you just get that perfect RNG run and you're able to clear Hades for the first time. I mean, looking back on it, that was honestly the reason I was able to clear it for the first time anyways in 5 tries. I happened to get a really good run, and the RNG on my weapons was so good that I practically walked into that final battle. I mean, I'm actually a god amongst mortals. We won't talk about the amount of times I got emotional when we made it to the surface and got a little bit more of the story between Zagreus and his mother. Oh, I said we wouldn't talk about it. You know what? I'm just gonna rate this game. Otherwise, the video is gonna end up being 4 hours long, and I'm still gonna miss a ton of content, and I'm gonna get flamed down below in the comments anyways. So I'm gonna have to give Hades a resounding 10 Dusa-shaped watermelons out of 9. I didn't misspeak. 10 out of 9. The game it's just so good. Special thank you to all of our ever-growing Patreons. I mean, we've got 5 now. Thank you guys so much for helping me get a little bit closer to my goal of creating content full time. And to the rest of you knuckleheads, if you want to see what I think is the greatest hack and slash old school RPG of all time, you can click that video here. Unless it pops up on this side, you can click it over there.